Chapter 5.
Carmen wiped away tears as she and Tony and Mrs. Grosso hurried through the streets. Mrs. Grosso had explained what happened, that Papa had become very ill around lunchtime. Mr. Vida took Papa home in a wagon. He's in bed now, Mrs. Grosso continued as they passed the bakery. The doctor already came. He said your father has some kind of flu, new kind of flu. The word flu made Carmen feel calmer. The flu wasn't really a killer like typhoid or polio or rabies. Carmen had the flu just last year. She'd felt rotten and was in bed for days, but within a week she was back to herself. Papa will be fine, Papa will be fine, Carmen repeated to herself as her boots clicked against the stone streets. And looking around her, everything was the same as always. There were the little kids playing hide and seek between the push carts piled high with fruits and vegetables. There was Mrs. Ortelli through the window of the bakery, chatting with her customers. There was the gray cat sunning himself outside the tailor shop, and the hams and sausages hanging in the butcher's window. There was a rat poking through a pile of trash. And of course, there was Tony, right next to her. But then, when they stopped at the corner to wait to cross the street, Carmen caught sight of something else. The newsboy, the one she and Tony had passed earlier. Carmen had barely listened to the headlines he'd been shouting out, but now Carmen slowed down and stared as the boy waved the afternoon paper at the people rushing by him. Suddenly his words seemed meant just for Carmen. Deadly flu hits Boston. Carmen practically flew up the narrow staircase that led to their apartment. She rushed past Mr. Vida into the small bedroom she and Papa shared. Another neighbor, Mrs. Pirelli, was kneeling next to Papa's bed, but the man in the bed, that couldn't be Papa. He looked like a shivering ghost, deathly pale, lips tinged blue. His teeth chattered even though the bed was piled with blankets. Papa? Carmen rasped, dropping down to her knees. Papa's eyes fluttered open. The ghostly mask fell away for a few seconds. Mia Ragazza, he gasped, my girl. Carmen sat down, blinking away tears, forcing a smile. She would cheer him up, just like she cheered up Tony. Papa, she said, her voice shaking, I got another 100 on my math test, but Papa's eyes were already closed again. Carmen grabbed his hand. It was so hot, as if his blood was boiling, as if his bones were on fire. She pulled a rickety chair over to the bed and sat down. I'm here, Papa, she said. I'm here. Hours passed, and the sun went down. Papa tossed and turned, muttering in his sleep. And then came the cough, a hacking, wheezing cough like nothing Carmen had ever heard. It sounded like little bombs were exploding in Papa's lungs. Eek.
I think he's about to die.
I think so too. Mrs. Pirelli and Mrs. Grosso sponged Papa's face and arms to cool him. They spooned medicine into his mouth, but Papa's skin got hotter. The cough got worse and worse. Carmen sat in her chair, gripping Papa's hand. Her mind kept drifting back to the flood after the earthquake, when Carmen clung to Papa's back as they were caught in the churning sea. Nona had told her the story so many times. I was up early that day, she always began, because that naughty goat escaped again. I just reached the top of the hill when everything started to shake. The earthquake lasted 40 seconds, but it felt like years, she said. When it was over, she raced down the hill to the house. The roof had collapsed, but Mama, Papa, and Carmen made it out and were safe. We thought the worst was over, but we were wrong. The earthquake had caused the sea to rise up. Now tidal waves 20 feet tall slammed into the village. Your Papa grabbed you and tried to run, Nona continued, but nobody could outrun the sea. Nona always got a twinkle in her eye at this point. The water was strong, but your Papa was stronger. He grabbed a shutter from a ruined house. He climbed up on it and told Carmen to hold on to his back. The water rose and rose. They got separated from Nona and Mama. They floated on the shutter for hours. And this was the part that etched itself into Carmen's mind, especially the words Papa had called out to her over and over. "Hold on," he'd said. Now Carmen leaned into Papa an inch away from his sweat-covered brow. Sweat-covered, thank you. "Hold on, Papa," she whispered. "Please, hold on." She gripped his hand. She held it tighter than she'd held on to Papa's back in the flood. Tighter than anything she'd ever held on in her life. She held on even after Papa stopped breathing. Even after the doctor put the sheet over Papa's face. Even after Papa's hand grew cold. And Carmen understood. So some things get taken away, no matter how hard you try to hold on to them. It wasn't until much later, when the sun came up, that Carmen finally let go.